You take us back to the beginning. How did you discover your passion for the arts and storytelling?
Yeah, so I originally started on this, non-traditional journey through modeling. I was actually in college. I was economics with a political science minor in Boulder. In school, I was studying that, and I decided to kind of push a little bit of the modeling stuff. And I went out to New York City for one summer between semesters because I have some family out there. So I was living with grandma, commuting into New York City every, whenever they needed me for castings. And summer went really, really well. My agents basically told me like, hey, you can't leave type of thing. So I switched from regular classes to online classes, and eventually it kind of fizzled out because of work. And yeah, and I officially moved into New York City. And from there, I was modeling and everything. And I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, what else? Like, what is the next step? I've always kind of been somebody that, once I feel like I get a grasp on something, I kind of want to learn what's next. And somebody was like, well, we'll take some classes, take some acting classes. So I started very general. I actually took just like commercial acting classes that basically taught me how to, turn left, turn right, and smile at the camera. And I kept pursuing it. And I had somebody recommend a teacher named Sheila Gray to me, and she operates out of the Upper West Side. She has a great client list. And she really, really, really got me in touch with my emotions. And it was a sensory class that just started walking me through how to kind of bring up certain feelings and how to work through things and how to make yourself comfortable in spaces. And, if a scene calls for it being your apartment, how to kind of walk through the idea of you being in your own apartment and finding your own comfort levels and stuff like that. So, I fell in love with it from there. It was really kind of a therapy thing at first, because you kind of work through a lot of stuff. The first class, she works you through an exercise that the end goal is kind of basically to have you kind of crying in a corner. And it, it worked really well. But she also told me too, as she said, like, if I can't get a student to do that during the first class, I don't know if they necessarily have the emotional depth to take them where I need to take them. And thankfully it was something that I was able to connect to really easily, but it meant a lot to me. And then I learned how to take those, that sensory work and bring it into an improv work through her. So we would really kind of go through these, pre-improv exercises and then be thrown into a scene and work through it. And then, obviously you have scene study and scripts and stuff that start getting brought into it. And it finally got to a point where she was like, hey, they're sending you out for auditions, right? And I was like, no, I'm just kind of doing for this for fun right now. And she is like, no, I need to have a conversation with somebody. So she had a conversation with my now agent and was like, he should be going out. So that kind of started the whole journey.
And actually, it might be the answer to this next question, but when you look at your career as a whole, who or what has had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
Oh, wow. I don't know if I could sit there and pinpoint one person. I have a great group of people around me and my team and everything that, I think I'm able to talk to them on a personal level and make sure I'm making the right decisions and everything. But I would also, my initial thought was, just my parents, for my parents to sit there and be okay with the fact that I was going to school and college, and then to tell them that, hey, I'm probably not going to come back. And, I stayed on the East Coast. And my parents have always been, probably to a fault, just extremely, extremely supportive. And they've always been like, if this is what you want to do, go do it then. So probably them.
Great answer. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned modeling that you've now been able to apply to your work on screen?
Um, technically there's a lot of crossover between modeling and acting. I think that I've never really had an issue in terms of like hitting marks and eye lines and little things along that, which are little tricks that like people don't know are taking place because there's times in scenes where it's like, hey, you're talking to this person here, but you're actually looking at an X on a wall over there, not, not actually making eye contact with someone. So on a technical side, I would probably say that kind of stuff came pretty easy for me, thankfully, because of the modeling.
And you've got a new project coming out soon. Can you tell us about where the Crawdads sing at your character in the film and what drew you to this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So where the Crawdads sing, obviously a massive book, huge hit, popular worldwide. I didn't even realize when I started this whole process how mind-blowingly popular this
Yeah.
book is, and it continues to be to this day. It won, I think, best paperback in France this last year. It just hasn't stopped, which is amazing. And then obviously the trailers and whatnot that have dropped for the movie have like skyrocketed it back up to the New York Times bestseller list and everything again. So it's been cool. It was a process that, I don't know. I'll be honest, I didn't directly search this project out myself, and I wasn't like, hey, I really want to be a part of this. I just have a great team that, submitted me on the project, and they ended up finding the right role for me. I auditioned for another part initially, and then they ended up sending Jodie back to me. And it was kind of one of those match made in heavens. The more I learned about Jodie, and then when I finally picked up the book, when I was offered the part, and did my deep dive work, there were a lot of similarities between who I am as a person and who Jodie is.
You're speaking of how supportive your parents have been. How did you celebrate landing the news that you got the role, and what does it mean to share this moment with them?
You're gonna make me cry. No, it was a great call. I mean, this is a very hard industry because we're told no over and over and over for a long period of time. So it gets difficult because I have such supportive parents and everything, that they're always being like, how was that audition? How was this? How was that? And like, it's hard to tell somebody that, oh yeah, nothing came of that one, over and over and over again. So Crawdads, I won't forget the call, because it actually came the day I was in Savannah, Georgia, about to shoot my role, about to start working for Devotion, actually. And I got the call about Crawdads the day before I started working. So I had never been to Savannah before. So I was just kind of cruising around Savannah on my own. And yeah, I just kind of took a second to myself just to kind of find a quiet place on this. I truly don't even know where I was in Savannah at the time. And just kind of took a moment to myself, because I was really, really in shock, and I was, very happy about it. And then I let my parents know. So it was a good day.
Yeah, I love that story. When you're working on a film that's being adapted from a popular novel, there are going to be comparisons that are made. What's one thing about your character that you wanted to make sure translated from the book to the screen? And what's something new that you brought to him?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it's written in there, but I have two younger brothers, and Jody really plays that older sibling role.
Yeah.
And it's something that's very important to him, and his love that he has for his sister. And they've had, they had a serious kind of separation throughout the story. And I think the biggest thing that I felt was important was to bring in the idea that, although this tragic thing happened, like, I care about you immensely. And then, I think that I kind of there were things that were touched upon in the book, but it wasn't outright said, that, Jody has a very specific outlook on life, in a very specific way that he kind of attacks difficult situations. And I think that kind of some of the things that I learned in life, and going through the modeling and the acting, and just the continuous rejection type stuff, I've kind of created a very hard skin, or whatever you want to call it, to deal with those things. And there's different philosophies and things that I read and dive into that I think help me kind of get through that and keep the right mindset through all of it. So I think that was my take on who Jody was, and that's what I kind of brought that was myself into it.
Great answer. What was that collaboration like, working with Daisy as you brought the history of your two characters to life on the screen?
Yeah, we didn't get the dream scenario is, that we can hang out for weeks on end and do whatever we want and, just enjoy each other. But, it wasn't necessarily that, but thankfully, you know, Daisy is, such a kind person and a very relatable person. And she was very, very, very welcoming from the very first time I met her. So, there was an ease in the scenario that thankfully I didn't have to create and pretend too much, because she just is somebody that, is very open and caring. So, we kind of fell into a good relationship very quickly.
This is one of your biggest roles to date. Did anything surprise you about this process? What would you say is the biggest takeaway that you learned on set that you'll bring to future projects?
I mean, I think the crazy thing is, and maybe it's just the attention that, kind of the acting side receives, but, we are one small part in making movies. And,
Mm.
like I said, I think that the actors do get a lot of attention for what they do because they're the ones that you visually see from it. But a movie and operating set is, can be hundreds of people. And, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to do their job at the same time that you're trying to do yours. And, I think I can pick up on people and things very easily. And I think that it's easy to kind of like get in your own head because of that. Cause you're like, oh, that person's mad at me because but like, really, they're not paying any attention to you. They're just making sure like a light is hitting you in the face type of thing, So I think I just learned that like each person is there to kind of fill a role and do a job. And, you have to sit there and you just have to kind of do your job in that process. And that's going to make it easier for everyone else.
The film drops on July 15th. Is there a scene that you're really excited for your fans to see?
Absolutely. I think, the scene is, Kaya and Jodie reuniting. I think it's really special. Like I said, I think that, their bond was something so significant, especially in the childhood of both of them, that to bring them back together is, like I said, just very, very special, just because it means a lot to the storyline, and it also means a lot to where the story goes from there too.
Outside of this film, you've got tons in the works. Are there any that you can talk about at this time?
I mean, obviously there's Blackbird that's going to drop here on July 8th. So that one, it's ready to go. So that's a cool one from Apple TV. It's a limited series with Taron Egerton, Ray Liotta. I could keep going. Like the list of big names in that one is amazing. And it's really cool. Everything that I've been able to see from it, it's suspenseful, it's scary, it's intense, it's everything that you could ask for in a limited series. That I think it was perfect to be a limited series, because you couldn't have fit it in a movie. It just was something
Mm.
that almost needed several
Yeah.
movie length episodes to be able to complete that storyline. So I'm very excited about that. The character I got to play in that one was a fun dude that just, it was almost an easy day when I did work, or an easy character to play, because he was this guy that never grew up really. So he just kind of got to be this dipshit that did whatever he wanted. So it's kind of fun to be him for a little while. And beyond that, I have Devotion coming out in October. And then I worked on another project called The Burial with Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones, which it'll be released sometime in 2023, but there's not an official release date yet for that one.
Very cool. I've got two more questions for you. You're starring in so many of these highly anticipated projects this year. What is your vetting process like, deciding what roles you go out for?
I think the easiest way to do it is just when you actually get a hold of the material. There's just certain scripts that you pick up and you start reading, or certain character descriptions or whatnot. And, the easiest ones are ones that you feel as though you can connect to quickly.
Mhm.
And there's certain ones that you just read about what they go through in their process, and, what they've experienced, and you go, oh, this would be fun to experience. So I think it's just that weird little internal click that, that is kind of like, kind of starts the creativity and thought process in your head before you've even auditioned for it yet. So I think if I find that in a project, it's something that I really chase after as much as I can.
Yeah, and then final question for you. This is such an exciting time in your career. As you look at ahead to the next 5, 10 years, is there a character or story that you would love to bring to life on the screen? And as your career develops and grows, could we potentially see you working behind the scenes? I know you're just saying, talking about kind of the whole big picture of filming. Is producing, directing something that's on the cards for the future?
Um, I don't know, it's something I look at things as though if it kind of scares me, it's something that I should probably head in that direction. So the two things that I've mentioned recently that kind of scare me are filmmaking, like you said, on the other side of the camera, and then also something that's more theatrical based, something, on an actual stage, just because there is no starts and stops. It's all live audience and everything else. And that one probably scares me more than anything. So it's something I should probably pursue somehow. But yeah, I haven't lined anything up or thought too hard about what I want to do along those lines yet.